At the Games, media are split into a number of subgroups. There are the rights-holding, accredited journalists, organizations like CBC this past Olympics, and organizations like NBC and CTV and TSN in Vancouver, who have paid for the right to broadcast the Games. They have immediate access to venues and athletes. There are accredited journalists who are granted the right to cover the Games, but not to the extent as the rights-holding media. And rounding out the media, there are the unaccredited journalists. Some of these journalists can access resources through the local or provincially run non-accredited media center.
One of the great things about having lots of reporters there is that everywhere you go out, you are the expert on one thing as a reporter, and that is what you see. And you don't really have any idea how representative that is of the wider picture.
It means, as a reporter, it safely means 18-hour days, and you don't stop. Particularly if you're a rights holder, and CBC, everyone I was on, we were a rights holder, we were always on the air, and I was personally on the air for 4 or 5 hours at a time.
Getting media accreditation for the Olympics is no easy task.
I was about 15 months too late in my request. You're supposed to request credentials like 16 or 17 months in advance, and I requested about 3 weeks in advance. So they said if I got here and I got on the ground, they would do what they could, and we'll go from there.
Media access is key to providing results-based coverage, and much easier for accredited journalists. The focus of athletes and organizers is on the competition. Win, lose, or draw, athletes are whisked off to speak to the accredited journalists first.
And this is the ultimate show. There are some things about covering the Olympics that are hard just because your hands are tied behind your back for a few things and you're limited to what you can get. And even when you're interviewing the athletes in the mix zone, you get 1 minute, so you're trying to get your first question out really, really good and then something else.
The Canadians, for example, are faring terribly in the pool as they did in Athens. You want to know right away what's wrong. And to have the opportunity to put those questions to them and have them respond is worth its weight in gold. And there was a lot of frustration from other media outlets that, for example, Rick Say blew up after the relay, and he was talking to me when he did it, but not, by the time he got to other writers, he was more measured in his comments. So, there was a bit of frustration on the part of other writers and broadcasters that they didn't get back.
I love the inspirational stories that you hear from the athletes, the fact that they have given up so much of their life for this one moment, 1 second in the sun, and I just never get tired of those stories. The other day we were at halfpipe, and when Mercedes came down after not winning, she had tears in her eyes, and I just wanted to weep with her. I mean, those kind of stories of hope and wanting to win and dreaming the dream and then either making it or not making it, they're inspirational, so I love that part of it.
One of the great joys of the Olympics is meeting Canadian athletes, particularly those right after a big medal victory. And you, like everyone else, I've only seen them on television, then sometimes I see them on the playing field, and then all of a sudden they're walking through the studio, and to a person, and in 4 Olympics, to a person, they are all the things that we would hope Canadians would be. They're gracious, they're humble, they're very pleased for the attention, they're very good winners, and so it makes you very proud.
Following those interviews, athletes head back to the Athletes' Village. The Canadian Olympic Committee provides all media with an opportunity to speak to medalists a few days after they receive their medals. Jeffrey Buttle joins us now, the bronze medalist in figure skating. And Jeffrey, tell me about last night.
Yeah, it was a surprise really, because I thought I was too far back to make up that much space.
The best coverage that unaccredited journalists can provide is more geared towards scene setting than results-based coverage.
I want to try and get an understanding about what the Vancouver team is learning or is hoping to learn from these games in Turin.
Well, there are a lot of similarities between Torino and the region and the Olympics that will be occurring in our backyard in Vancouver in 2010.
Stadio Olimpici here in Torino. It's the venue for the opening and closing ceremonies here at the 20th Olympic Winter Games. We're 1,600 meters in the Italian Alps, high up here. A couple of things you need to know when you go to an Olympics in a foreign country. Usually the language is pretty helpful. Now, I know a little bit of French and I know a little bit of English, of course. My Italian, it's a little bit rusty. We're here with the mayor of Torino, and your impressions of the games here in your city.
It's a wonderful.
Well, we're here with the 2 Winnipeggers who have made it all the way into the Italian Alps. We're joined now by probably one of the most recognizable players of Team Canada, especially here in Torino. It's Daniel Goyette. There's one uniform One costume that is far and away the hit of these games, and in fact it's the hit all the time here at Torino, and that would be a uniform from Juventus, their soccer team. For Shaw TV from the Porto Fenestrale just outside of Torino, I'm Sam Charles. The 2010 games will be broadcast in Canada by a consortium of CTV and Rogers Media. All broadcasters who secured the 2010 games also secured the rights to the 2012 games. The Canadian consortium will be made up of a large number of CTV and Rogers outlets, including TSN, RDS, Sportsnet, Newsnet, and Rogers Radio. With the CTV and Rogers takeover of Chum assets, the number of outlets covering the games will undoubtedly increase. The consortium will likely be the largest grouping of TV channels from one country to air Olympic-related live coverage. The CTV network alone is promising 22 hours a day in coverage during the games. NBC pays the highest TV rights fee of any broadcaster in the world. NBC Universal, the parent company of NBC, seems intent on covering every single competition in its entirety. NBC is thrilled the games are being hosted in North America because North American time zones are easier to schedule, unlike Beijing. Broadcasting of games outside of North America causes a number of scheduling difficulties, which often lead to lower ratings.